hip hop, hip hop, hip hop, hip
Bars is back.
hip hop,
Sam
hip
and
hop,
oh God,
hop,
what's
hip
up with you?
hop.
I done watched them niggas do interview after interview. They not culture vultures. The culture something they been into. So if you never
Appreciate that.
gave them a view, I
What
recommend you
role
do.
in your
It's
illustrious
funny.
career would you say would be the most was the most challenging for you, or was the most gratifying for you, if you have one?
The Brother from Another Planet was certainly a challenge. It's a character that does not speak at all. So that meant I had to go through the entire film without being able to talk and be able to communicate at the same time. Rowan in Scandal certainly was an immense challenge. Pretty much in every script I had at least a 2 or 3 page monologue that I had to learn. And then most recently, I played Dick Gregory on the stage in a play called Turn Me Loose. And that was enormously challenging, enormously fulfilling, and one of the great pleasures of my career.
What did you take out of that most? Because Dick Gregory was one of those most iconic figures that we've ever seen, and was very outspoken, very candid about a lot of different things. What did you take?
Well, I took the fact. I mean, he had so many different sides to him. You know, when many people think of Dick Gregory, they either think of him as either an activist or a comedian. And in fact, he was both of those things as he was coming up in the world. He was the first comedian to talk about politics and race, as he would say, flat-footed on the stage and talking directly to an audience. He also, I found, as we were rehearsing, I found a video of an interview. It's in the play that he did, which made him sound more like Martin Luther King than what one would normally think of Dick Gregory sounding like. And I think there was that part of him as well. He was also involved in, the Bahamian diet, which he started putting together because of all of the fasting that he was doing. He was a guy who had cancer and was able to cure it on his own, and not only cure it in himself on his own, but other people. There are stories of people who went to him and he told them what to take and how to take it and blah, 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 and he cured them. I mean, I kept saying this while I was doing the play, he was the closest I could imagine to who Jesus Christ might have been like.
Wow. Dick Gregory.
And you knew him personally?
I did for the short period of time that he was around the play. Absolutely.
Awesome.
We sent him different versions of the script as it was being rewritten. I don't think he ever read it. I think mostly his children and mostly Christian read them. And then his kids, he has 10 kids, right? Mm-hmm. His kids would come almost 2 at a time to see the previews. And I think they were doing reconnaissance on the play to see if I was doing a good job or not. And then finally, I knew that he was going to be there opening night. I didn't know where he was going to be sitting, but I knew he was going to be there and that at some point we would be eye to eye. And it happened as I was talking about Emmett Till in the play. It's when I caught his eye. And it was like we were having a private conversation. And then I was told later by Dick that there's a moment in the play where he gets a phone call from a bigot right after his son has died. And this bigot says on the phone how glad he was that his son had died. It's a very, very powerful, very sad, very deep moment. And I think at the moment that it was all happening, Dick must have grabbed Lil's hand. And Lil turned to him and said, "Nigga, why are you holding my hand? That's Dick Gregory up there."
Do you think that Dick Gregory gets the credit he deserves? Because you compared him to the closest thing a man could be to Jesus Christ. Do you think that he gets the credit that he deserves?
I think he does now. I mean, I think that a lot of people are getting credit that they didn't get in the past. People are talking more about James Baldwin now than they did when the man was alive.
Yeah.
Same thing is true with Dick Gregory. People are talking now more about Angela Davis than when she was doing what she was doing. So I think, yes, I think what's happened is because of moments like George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Trayvon Martin and all those kind of things, I think what's happened in the country is that they're now beginning to hear what others have said in the past about what the problem in this country is that we never have had. Since Emmett Till, no one has talked about why that could happen, why those men felt like they could do that carte blanche without having to think about any kind of punishment. In fact, those two guys actually said after their trial that they did it, knowing that there was that double jeopardy was now in play, that no one could do anything about it. Even the jury said at some point, they knew that they were guilty, but there's nothing they could do about it. They said the same thing about the gentleman who shot Trayvon Martin. They knew he was guilty, but there was nothing they could do about it.
Man. Did you know Bill Cosby?
We met a couple of times, but other than that, I did not know him. I mean, I met him, at an audition. I think at one point I auditioned for his brother. That didn't happen. I don't think they even used any of that stuff, but that's the only time he and I spent any time together.
How do you feel about what he's going through now?
It's a shame. Here's a man who at one point in this country, people would look at the Cosby Show and that suddenly became the nuclear family that never was before, because it was a black family. And it was a family of middle income people who were trying to educate and then teach their children. I mean, what he did for black families in this country was amazing, only to, if you will, corrupt his own career by feeling like he had to do what he did. And that's a shame, because I think the problem with most cases is, you can spend your whole life doing terrible things. You do one bad thing, and that's all anybody ever remembers.
Yeah, very true. Very, very good point. I want to transition to music real quick, because we are a hip hop channel, even though we've been blessed to have all kind of diverse people on our platform.
Right.
Hip hop. Where do you feel hip hop is today, if you do listen to hip hop, and where do you feel music is today compared to where it was when you grew up?
Well, when I grew up, the only genres of music out there were obviously classical, jazz, and rock and roll. That was pretty much it. Hip hop had not come around. There were the poets, but they were poets. They weren't hip hoppers or doing rap. I think it's interesting when rap first started, when hip hop first started, they were talking more about politics. Then it sort of warped into this thing of big butts and naked bodies and champagne and lots of money and a lot of bling around your collar. And I suppose, I'm not making judgments on anybody, but I suppose, everybody has their taste. For me, it's mostly jazz. I think that for this country in particular, I think jazz belongs to our culture, to black culture. And so I've grown up with that most of my life. It's a great part of who I am. But, I listen to lots of different things. We are actually working on a piece now called Wake Up America, which is a combination of spoken word and sung and even some scat. And we hope that's going to come out at the beginning of next week at some point.
Now, you talk hip hop's message. You talked about that. What's your opinion on why it changed? From talking about politics, things that were going on, black empowerment, things like that, to now turning into, women, like you said, drugs and the whole thing, killing people. Do you think that was pushed by the record execs, or do you think it was just the artists, talking about their reality?
I think it's the artist talking about the reality, talking about making money for the first time and where that takes you. And I'm sure that the record companies basically saw that this was something that sells, so why not push that? The groups that stayed political or decided that they were going to be outspoken about the police, that stuff I thought was tremendous. I thought that took a great deal of courage to do that kind of thing. And that was more to my liking in terms of a genre of music. And that as I say, rock and roll can be, for the most part, kind of surface and who cares and love songs and blah, 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 blah. But there are also artists who want to talk about more serious things in that genre. So, you have to sort of take the good with the bad, in my opinion.